Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Running the Bases podcast. I'm your host, Michael Garaffa, alongside Marco Peralta, Nick Nath, and Mr. Ryan Blank all the way down there. Welcome to another fantastic show. We are happy to have all of you. And this is also our very first show on Blaze Radio of the semester. That is exciting. For those of you that are wondering, all the things we are talking about today, we spoke about yesterday if you're watching live on Blaze, because we do record this show live on Sunday mornings. If you want to catch the video of this actual show, you can go check it out on our YouTube at Running the Bases podcast. We are live every Sunday at 9 o'clock, and then you can also hear us right on Blaze as well. So that is exciting information for those of you that are listening to us on Blaze. And if you're not and you're here live, well, we're happy to have you, as always, on this fine Sunday morning. So welcome out, everybody. We have a lot to talk about in today's show. The wild card round was insane. We have completed the wild card round in between the last show. It was a very one-sided wild card round. There were only two series that actually went to the max games, but boy, oh boy, are we off to a great start this postseason. And based on the way we're looking right now, we could be on the verge to be in one of the best postseasons we have ever had, and I think that's really exciting. So let's get right into it today. Recapping the wild card. There is so much to go on here between every single series, 8 series going on at once. We had the very first time in postseason history where there were 8 games going on at a given moment in a given day. There were 5 games going on at one time back on Wednesday. That was insane. I mean, it was just that was on Tuesday. All around an exciting day of baseball and an exciting week for baseball fans. And we have had such the incredible time watching baseball. And honestly, it's a dream for baseball fans, and I can't wait to see more of it. But right away, this is our first taste of that 3-game series and our very first opportunity to see what that 3-game series would be like, first to 2 games. I want to know what you guys thought about that, because it was a very unique thing, and it is something that we very might well see in the future. And personally, I liked it a lot. I thought it made things a lot more intense. I don't know whether I would like it in a wild card setting necessarily, because I miss that 1-game wild card because that was just so intense. But I do like this 3-game series if they can incorporate it in some way, because I just thought it was really awesome for me just to see that. It built up a lot of excitement. But I want to open the floor up to you guys and hear what you guys have to say about it.
I'm gonna do a Ryan. Well, he does almost every single show. So listen here. Just kidding. No, talking about the
White Sox,
this 3-game series and the wild card. I think it's good for the circumstances that we went through this season because of I think it would have been just fun to have more playoff games because of the fact it was a shortened season. So it was like, okay, it's just 60 games, but you know what? Let's extend the playoffs so we can have a little bit more baseball and make it a little bit more entertaining. And who knows, they could be a surprise team like the Marlins. We're gonna go into the NLDS, you know. Yeah. So I wouldn't like it in the future, but maybe this is maybe too much to ask for. But if there's a division that is tied for the division title, maybe a 3-game series for the one who proclaims a division can be used. Maybe that's a way I could see it happening. I personally prefer the tiebreaker because it's the 1-game win-all situation, like we've seen in the previous wild card games, one winner take all. So I think it's going to be hard to see this 3-game series to be implemented again in the future of baseball. You know, because it was fun, but I wouldn't say it's not the same, but it was exciting. It was not the same as that 1-game series that we see every single wild card. So it's going to be hard for that 3-game series to come back in the future. But we know Rob Manfred can bring up whatever situation he wants and make it happen. But I don't see it happening. But again, it's Rob Manfred.
True.
Yeah, for me personally, it was really cool having with three or 4 straight days of just baseball, every day from about 11 to 11.
There was one day that was 9 to 11. It was awesome.
Yeah, 9 to 11. It was awesome. So it's been this week was really fun week in terms of baseball. You know, you really got to see these teams and up close and personal. I'd never seen the Marlins on live television. You know, I had no idea Sixto Sanchez was really, and I finally got a chance to see him and how good he looked. So I like the 3-game. I think it gives you a good chance to see how good a team really is. Like the Braves and Reds. You saw how dominant their pitching was. Through 2 games, Reds didn't score a single run. I don't think any of us thought that would happen, but it just goes to show how good the Braves rotation was. So I'm in favor for this 3-game. For me, it gives you a chance to see each team up close and personal for at least 2 games. So for me, I like it to stay, but knowing Rob Manfred, that if we like it, he probably won't keep it. So I'm not going to keep my hopes too high, but I'm all in favor for it. I had a great week watching baseball, and I hope it stays.
Awesome.
Nikash, I agree with you. I really think that it should stay. I love
You
the
agree with me
3-game
too. Go ahead, keep talking.
I'm not acknowledging you right now. I'm acknowledging my good friend Nikash. But no, I really like this series. I think it's terrific. I think that it's much better than a 1-game winner take all, because you've seen teams in the past kind of get screwed by it. Like, I'm not going to lie. In 2014, the Royals snuck away with that. They probably shouldn't have won that game. They were losing. But I really think that 3 games gives you a larger sample size. I think it tunes teams up more for the DS, and I think that it makes it even more competitive, and that's what I want to see. So I think it should stay. But do you know how nice it was for me to watch some extra innings baseball without stupid California rule? It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I agree. Very sloppily played baseball, however.
If we go back to California rule next year, Rob Manfred and I will have a little chat.
Oh, well, I can't wait for that after him saying it's going to be back. So that'll be fun to hear that. But either way, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good culmination of things. And like Ryan said, I think it kind of evened the playing field, because we have seen 1 game. You can have a team that has 1 good starting pitcher and they have no one else, which is basically what the Mets had this year. If the Mets were, say, in a 1-game playoff, they would have fared a lot better than many other teams. But in a 3-game, they probably would have lost. And that is why it is more, I think, a test of your overall team building skills, as opposed to just having 1 starting pitcher that'll get you through the 1 game to get you into the playoffs. And I think that's what made it so special. Do I think it should be that every team is in the wild card round? Absolutely not. I think that is ridiculous, and I hope we will see that change. But do I want to see a 3-game series back in some way, possibly even as the wild card? I think that'll be pretty fun. But that moves us on. We have to recap all 8 series that took place in that wild card round. So many games, 4 teams for both the NL and the AL. We're going to talk about what went wrong, what went right, and who was the series MVP for each series. We will start it off on the National League side, and we will kick it off with the Brewers and the Dodgers. This series was one-sided from the beginning. Everyone knew that, and everyone really saw right away what was going to go down. When the Dodgers scored right away, everyone was saying these poor Brewers are about to get destroyed in 2 games. They didn't get destroyed, but they really just got outplayed. The things that went wrong for me personally, I thought that the Brewers offense just couldn't hit. That's been the case for them all year long. Christian Yelich struggled. I believe he was the last out of the series, and it was not a good series for him or really anyone else in that Brewers staff on the offense. But on the good side, I mean, you also saw the Dodgers being the Dodgers. They did their thing. They hit, they pitched. They just were all around the team that we expected them to be. Do I believe their offense could have done a little better? Yes, but they were also playing a team in the Brewers that has a fairly solid pitching staff. They got Brandon Woodruff pitched a gem of a game. And for my MVP of this series, I got to go for Mookie Betts. I think he was a phenomenal player. He drove in almost all of the runs in the series, and he is going to be a big piece if the Dodgers want to win the World Series. So, Marco, I'll throw it off to you. I know you were hyped up about this series, and I'm excited to hear what you got to say about it.
Well, I kind of share the same feelings with you, Michael. This series was like one-sided from the very, very beginning. Like, for example, instead of watching game 2, I was watching game 2 of the Padres and Cardinals, because of the fact, I was like, you know what? I think the Dodgers are going to just win this game.
I give you major props for that.
Yeah, because that game was entertaining. I'm like, man, it was just so neck and neck. It was ridiculous, And I had to see who our future opponent was, and at the same time analyze how they're going to be playing.
Sure.
But besides that, the Dodgers, I wouldn't say like they didn't score a lot of runs, but like you said, the Brewers have a great pitching staff. The game 2 was definitely a gem pitched by their starting pitcher. But I'm gonna go with my MVP of the series. It's not Mookie Betts. It's Clayton Kershaw.
Wow.
Clayton Kershaw. Why? Because in game 2, he showed up. He allowed 3 hits, 0 earned runs, and 13 strikeouts. 13 strikeouts in a playoff game. I think he's only done that, I think, 2 times before this past 2. So he showed up to play without a doubt, and I'm really, it made me feel so good. Because I was like, wow, like I haven't seen Clayton Kershaw be this good in such a long time. I posted on Twitter that he did a pickoff and got someone out. And I'm like, I saw that happening like in my head, but I'm like, dang, is he really going to do that? And he did. And I was like, wow, Clayton Kershaw definitely showed up to pitch today, and he's doing things that he's not used to doing at this point of his career. So I got to give props to him for everything he did. And he even told like the manager, he was in the middle of a pickle. He had 2 men on base. And Dave Roberts was like, hey, you want to keep going? You want to stop, or what do you want to do? And Kershaw was like, nah, I'm good. Let me in. And in my mind, I'm like, let's take him out, save him for the rest of the playoffs. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Let's kind of keep him in there, try to look at his pitch count, see how he's looking. So him to get a momentum, to get on the rhythm, to be playing really good baseball as a pitcher. So I'm really excited for Clayton Kershaw on the NLDS. Hopefully he pitches the same way. Also in the NLCS, and hopefully in the World Series, we see this type of Clayton Kershaw, and hopefully he can finally get that World Series ring. So MVP for my series, Clayton Kershaw.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys basically said everything. Clayton Kershaw looked great. He finally is starting to put those. One second.
We'll throw to Ryan for a second. Nick will let you continue when the cacophony is over.
Well, you probably get the noise with me too, but
Not as bad.
this series really showed
It's just as bad.
how.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Wow, it was deafening. But no, this series really showed how outmatched the Brewers really were when it came down to it. Mookie Betts is going to be my MVP. He was terrific. Whenever the Dodgers needed a run, who came up to the plate and got it? Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts has done it all year. He's been terrific all year. He's been one of the biggest pieces of that lineup, one of the most consistent players. But I also got to give a shout out to Kershaw. People talk about how Kershaw's not that great in the playoffs, how he chokes, how he's not the same Kershaw. He balled out and he shut down the Brewers. He pitched terrific, and hopefully this is kind of a new playoff Kershaw because they're going to need him, especially going against the Padres, who have an elite offense and have a lot of power there. He's going to need to pitch at the top of his game. So I was really impressed with the Dodgers. They really showed how barely where no team or maybe even one or two can only match up with them.
Yeah, so you guys basically said everything. Mookie Betts was great this series. Their primary source of offense for the series, and like you guys said, Kershaw looked phenomenal. He looked like regular season Kershaw when back in like 2012, like dominant. I don't think I've ever seen him look that good in a long time. But yeah, this series was lopsided from the beginning. The Dodgers didn't look as dominant as I thought they would, but they didn't really need to. Let's be honest. It was the Brewers, it was the 8th seed. Their best player, Christian Yelich, was batting like a sub 200 batting average, which is just hard to watch. And just shout out to Mookie Betts, man. The reason why LA got him was for situations like these. When your other MVP candidate, Cody Bellinger, is struggling, you can turn to a guy like Mookie Betts, an MVP, and have him score your runs for you. So yeah, all around great series from the Dodgers. Probably they have to score more runs against the Padres, though, because as we said before, the Padres have an elite offense. But yeah, Dodgers look dominant, and they'll probably take the series against the Padres too.
Yeah, and I mean, that sums it all up. I mean, you guys really hit all the nails on the head. That brings us over to, quite honestly, one of the most surprising series we have seen in this entire postseason between the Marlins and the Cubs. I want to point out, I was the only one who predicted the Marlins would win this series. Guess who was right? Me. Thank you. I told you
Did you
all.
predict the White Sox to beat
I
the
told you.
Athletics? Huh.
Okay, that was a
Funny.
much closer series. That went 3 games. That was a really good series as well. The Cubs just didn't look good in this series. They couldn't hit. They couldn't really do much of anything. And I think that was the biggest problem that we saw was that the Cubs just really couldn't get themselves hitting. And I was really disappointed that they couldn't get themselves the hits that they needed. The Cubs are a very good offensive team. They're a team that can score runs, and they're a team that can put just an amazing game out there with their starting pitching. And I was disappointed that they couldn't do that. That was their biggest issue, that the Cubs just couldn't get their bats going. The other big problem for me was that Yu Darvish couldn't be perfect. He wasn't the pitcher that they needed him to be. He was fantastic, but with the way the Cubs were hitting, he needed to throw a no-hitter in order for them to win that series. What went right? The Marlins pitching staff handled the pressure so well and allowed the offense to score enough runs to get them by. And that was the biggest part, that the Marlins don't have the best offense in the game. We all knew that. It was going to be up to the pitching staff to keep the offense within striking distance, and that's what they did all series. They shut down the Cubs. And for my MVP, this might come as a surprise, but I'm going for Brandon Kinsler. He pitched 2 brilliant games. He struck out the side in game 2, and without him, the Marlins could have very easily gotten things out of hand. This is a guy who has not necessarily been the best pitcher of all time, but he has finally started to come around towards the end of his career now with the Marlins. So I give him a lot of props for that against his former team. So I mean, just all around a solid series there, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about it, because you guys were the ones who didn't think that it would go this way.
Yeah, I'll be the first one to say that I was wrong in this situation, because I really thought the Cubs were going to take this series. But like you said, Michael, you hit it right on the nail. Great pitching by the Marlins. Great pitching. They really showed up when they needed to. When it comes to Yu Darvish, he did everything he could, man. He pitched really, really well. He only allowed 2 runs, and man, the Cubs were held to only 1 run in 2 games and only 9 hits against some Miami Marlins. So it shows how the Marlins really had a great pitching staff and how they make everything work in the right pieces. But my MVP for this series is Sixto Sanchez. Why? Because he is at such a young age, and he came to game 2 with the mentality of a winner. He pitched just a couple of innings. I think it was just 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 5 innings. He allowed 4 hits and no earned runs, and he had 6 strikeouts. So the reason it's not big numbers, but the reason why I'm picking him is that he's such a young kid. He's 22 years old, and he came into this game like his first playoff appearance, like he's been there before. He went against a very high-powered offense who knows how to hit the ball and put the ball in play. He shut them down in game 2. And basically, I wouldn't say wouldn't take all, because if the Cubs would have won, game 3 would have been a wouldn't take all. But just the pressure of hey, let's win this game to not force a game 3. So I give this MVP to Sixto Sanchez for such a young guy who came into the game like a champion and just a right mentality to get the victory for the Marlins and now go to the NLDS.
Yeah, wow. First of all, great prediction, Michael. None of us really had the Marlins going that far. We disrespected them. Yeah. It was just a disappointing win for the Cubs, honestly. I think Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and Javier Baez both combined 0 for 17 in game 2, which was it's just hard to watch. They have such a nice young core on paper. It looks good every year. But really, ever since their World Series run, we just haven't seen that same team. But I don't know. Just for me, it was more of a disappointing series for the Cubs than it was surprising for the Marlins. But shout out to the Marlins. They've been the underdog all year. Obviously, with their COVID outbreak early on, no one thought they'd be here after losing. They lost they lost most games in the majors last year. Now they're in the NLDS, and they've never lost a playoff series in franchise history, which is also a very impressive stat. But my MVP is also Sixto Sanchez, along with Marco. This guy that never really heard of, never really thought that he had a really chance to beat the Cubs, but he went out there and proved us all wrong. Went 5 strong innings, 6 strikeouts, gave the Marlins exactly what they needed to secure a series win. Overall, great series. Disappointing loss for the Cubs. It'll be interesting to see if they look to blow it up this offseason, but they probably won't. Probably give them a couple more years. But honestly, great series for the Marlins, and they look like they have a great young future the next few years.
Honestly, the Cubs, I think, lost this series more than the Marlins beat them. The Cubs played awful. And let me just tell you a couple stats real quick. Throughout those two games, they went 3 for 27 with runners on base. Baez, Chris Bryant, and Anthony Rizzo combined to go 0 for 12 in that final game, like you said, Nikash, and 1 for 24 in the series. When you have your three best players not hitting or doing anything at the plate, you cannot expect to win. And they played horrifically. And I think that the Marlins did a great job of situational hitting. You saw Garrett Cooper hit that home run against Yu Darvish, and that was really it because the Marlins dominated. And my MVP is also going to be Sixto Sanchez. He was terrific, especially coming off of his last two outings being a little shaky in the regular season, comes out and shuts down the NL Central champions. Like that, that's insane. He has a brilliant future. The Marlins have a brilliant future, and they're going to give the Braves a run for their money in this one, and I think it's going to be a great series.
And that's the thing that is also, like you said, with the Braves, that leads us into that series. I mean, the Reds and the Braves also had a very one-sided series, and I think it was another case of the Reds lost more than the Braves won. It was just a disappointment of a series. The Reds offense just fell flat on their face. Their bullpen couldn't keep runs off the board like they needed to. And it was just not, 13 innings in game one. The Reds had bases loaded twice in extra innings and never scored. They didn't score a single run. They were the first team ever to go more than 2 games, to get swept in a postseason series and not score a run. They currently hold the longest consecutive streak without scoring a run in playoff history. It's a disappointment for the Reds. Trevor Bauer's pitching went just off the rails because he was so good and it just didn't matter. The things that went right for the Reds were that their starters did well. Luis Castillo pitched a gem, and Trevor Bauer was phenomenal. He did exactly what we expected. Both of them did exactly what we expected them to do. And the Braves pitching staff was even better. That was the only problem. So that was really good. And the Braves offense did enough to get them by. And that's the important part. And my player of the series is going to be Ronald Acuna Jr. He didn't necessarily have all the showy stats, but in the end, he scored many runs. He was a table setter and started things up for the rest of the team in order to drive him in. And I think that was the biggest part as to why I had him as that MVP.
I kind of agree with you on the MVP, but I'm between him and another person, and I just couldn't make my mind right. But first off, I think it was a great series. Just the pitching was just phenomenal. Trevor Bauer and Luis Castillo were just phenomenal. And also the Braves as well were phenomenal. And obviously the Braves rotation and offense is what got them the series. But I just think that the Braves offense showed up at the right time. Because we saw how great of a pitching staff that the Reds were having in this series, and the Braves, they got it at the right time. They got on a walk-off. Freddie Freeman, he just played phenomenal, and he came in clutch more than most. But I wouldn't say that it's trying to wrap my mind how to say this point, but it was an interesting series that I think the Reds are in a good spot for their future. Yeah. So I wouldn't underestimate them for the next season. If Trevor Bauer stays, you never know if he's going to go somewhere else or he's going to stay in Cincinnati. So far, Cincinnati loves Trevor Bauer, and he loves Cincinnati. So hopefully they pay him enough for him to stay, because him being in a Reds uniform grew on me. He's who knows. But anyways, my MVP for this series is between either Ronald Acuna Jr., who went 4 for 9 this entire series, or Ian Anderson for what he did in the series. He had 6 pitches, only 2 hits, 0 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts. So I'm between those two. I might lean more to Acuna, but I think Anderson's performance on the mound was just clutch, phenomenal, to make sure that the Reds offense stayed quiet the whole entire series.
Yeah, honestly, this was probably the one series that I could see coming just because of how much the Reds disappointed me this season. And I expected nothing less. They didn't score a single run this entire series. Not a good look for them. My MVP for this series, I'm going to go with both starting pitchers for the Atlanta Braves, Max Fried and Ian Anderson. You knew what Max Fried was going to give you. You knew the type of stuff this guy has. He's ace-type potential. He honestly is just such a consistent pitcher for the Braves. Man, Ian Anderson, man, casual baseball fans need to learn this name because he was, like Marco said, he was clutch. He got the job done. He needed what he knew what he needed to do, and he just went out and dominated the Reds lineup. The Reds looked like they had never seen a baseball before in their life. That was probably the worst executed baseball I've ever seen, especially in Game 1 when they had the bases. They had first and third, no outs, and they couldn't score a run. That was just terrible. They didn't trust their small ball hitting. They forgot how to play baseball that entire series. It was just disappointing to watch, honestly. As someone who used to watch the Reds pretty closely. But yeah, I got to give it to the Braves. The pitching was phenomenal. The hitting was phenomenal. Freddie Freeman showed up in Game 1, MVP, and Acuna showed up in Game 2 with 3 for 5 hitting. But Atlanta's pitching is really what got them where they are now, and I'm excited for them to face the Marlins. They're going to have great pitching that whole series, and I'm just excited for that great divisional series.
Another disappointing series by one of the teams I picked. The Reds looked awful. We had talked about how this is a team that can hit for a lot of power, and they couldn't even do that. They didn't put up one single run against a team who was without their most dominant pitcher and has been the entire season. Freddie Freeman came up clutch in Game 1. But Ronald Acuna Jr., the Braves came up clutch as a team in Game 2 to get them that win. And my MVP is going to be Max Fried. And I'm going to say it also for the entire season. He's the Braves MVP. The way he has stepped up and took over the role as ace with the loss of Soroka is insane. He went 7-0 with a 2.25 ERA in 56 innings. Terrific way. Once they lost their ace, they bounced back and have Max Fried step up and play at an elite level. The Braves, I still think, should have lost this series, let alone not won in 2 games. This series should have at least gone the distance. And I don't know what else you can do about Trevor Bauer. He pitched terrific, and his team couldn't even get him 1 run. That just shows how dependent the Reds' offense really is on power, and they need to focus on getting more consistent with just getting singles, playing small ball, and manufacturing runs instead of just the home run ball.
Yeah, and you really hit the nail on the head there. That summed it up. They need to not swing for the fences, and that's what hurt them. And that'll bring us into the most exciting series of the entire postseason. The Cardinals, so far, we've got a lot to go. But the Cardinals and Padres was a phenomenal series that went the distance. The only NL series that did go all 3 games. The Cardinals, the 5 seed, and the Padres, the 4 seed. The Padres won this series 2-1 in 3 games. After losing Game 1, they came back and won the next 2. They did exactly what they had to do. The Cardinals pitching staff failed them. They have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. We spoke about it. They have an amazing bullpen. They couldn't get the job done. They needed that bullpen to dominate, and they could not. The bullpen was the thing that actually fell apart on them in Game 2 that led to them losing that game. The Padres offense woke up at the right time. They bandaged together pitching to do well enough to allow the offense to do that. And Game 3, they said it in Game 1 that if this series goes to 3 games, the Padres are going to be at a severe disadvantage without a single starter that can pitch in Game 3. Well, they made it work. They had so many pitchers out of the bullpen, and they made it work. And my player of this series, the MVP, is Jake Cronenworth. A phenomenal series for him. He didn't necessarily stand out. Everyone wants to say Tatis, but Jake Cronenworth flew under the radar. He was their key player in Game 3 of that series, led them to the division series. Without him in that series, they might not have won. That is a big underrated player for that team that they need to have playing well going forward.
I just realized I don't know. Oh, here they are. I was confused. Where did I leave my Padres notes? So it was like I said earlier, when I was watching, when I told you about the Dodgers games in Game 2, I was watching Game 2 instead of of the Padres and Cardinals. I was watching that game instead, because it was just phenomenal series to watch. What I think the Padres did right, they shut up in these last 2 games. They did whatever they needed to do. They saw the first game loss, and they're like, you know what? Let's get this job done. We've been good all year. We're number 2 in the NL. Let's get this job done. And they definitely did that. We saw Machado, and we got Tatis, who just came together. Cronenworth as well. Hosmer had a couple plays in there as well. Mike Myers had a couple home runs. They did everything they needed to do to make sure they got the job done. Their pitching was a little bit iffy, because Paddock didn't have a really, really great game in game 1. And also you have the other 2 pitchers who in the other 2 games, they were like, not great pitching performances, but the offense showed up, and the Cardinals, they had everything to win game 2. Well, what did they do? They got confident too early and underestimated the Padres, and they're like, you know what, we got this, let's just relax, we good. All of a sudden, Padres are on the lead. Now our series is tied. Next game, Padres win 4-0. They move on. The Cardinals choked. They had everything to win this series, but they underestimated a Padres team that is really, really good, really, really talented, has a bright, bright future. And I have to go with Fernando Tatis. I know, Michael, that you said Cronenworth, but I have to go with Tatis. Went 5 for 11, 5 runs, 5 RBIs, and those big, big home runs that he had against the Cardinals that really, really, I guess you could say, is what ignited that fire in the lineup to make sure that they moved on to the NLDS. So I got to go with Tatis for the MVP.
Wow. Just wow. What a series, honestly. Like Michael said, probably the most exciting series of the postseason so far. Game 2 was probably one of the better games I'd watched in a long time. Once Tatis and Myers kept those 2 home runs, both of them, that you kind of just could tell that the Padres just won that series, like right then and there, because in game 3 the Cardinals just didn't look like they wanted to be there. They looked defeated. They wanted to get it done in 2 games, but as soon as the Padres started coming back, they were like, all right, our season's over. We have nothing to do now. And it just shows you how explosive this Padres offense really is. When they can get guys like Will Myers that doesn't even wear batting gloves hit 2 home runs, you're in trouble. So I think the series against the Dodgers is gonna be a lot closer than a lot of people think. And my MVP is actually gonna be the entire Padres bullpen. They went 9 pitchers in game 3 and didn't give up a single run. They went 9 innings, 4 hits, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. I don't know any other team that can really just throw 9 guys out there and not give up a single run.
The Rays, probably.
Yeah, you're probably right. But just impressive pitching from the Padres all in all, And if this is what their bullpen's going to look like, then the Dodgers should be worried too. I think we're in store for for a great series. Dodgers, Padres. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. I know Marco is too. So let's get it going.
Nick, you took exactly who my MVP was going to be. It's got to be that Padres bullpen, especially because they were without, and still could be without, Danielson Lamet and Mike Clevenger. And they still pulled it out over Jack Flaherty, who at least one of us, or it might be someone else that I know, picked him to win Cy Young before COVID cut the season short. 9 pitchers, shut him out. Start off with Craig Stammen, who has been very inconsistent this year, very on and off. Goes in 8 2/3, gives up, I think, 1 hit only. Let me make sure about that. Yeah, 1 hit. And it's just exciting to see that this Padres team can be counted out multiple times and have to go to their bare bones and still win games, especially in the key situations where they need to win the series. Offense was great. Once they got Flaherty out of it, it was over. Flaherty really pitched well. He gave up 1 run, and it sucks to see him get the loss, but the offense by the Cardinals just wasn't there. I think they were just devastated, and their morale was gone after game 2. They were up 6-2, lost 11-9, and that's demoralizing. They had a chance to put away the Padres, and they didn't. And once I saw the Padres win that game 2, I knew they were going to win game 3. All the momentum was in their way, and the Cardinals just completely looked demoralized. And if it was still a 1-game wild card, you're definitely going to take the Padres against the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking at that same time. An inexperienced Padres staff managed to overcome that. And speaking of inexperience, that brings us over to the AL side between the Blue Jays and the Rays. This was a key series for the rest of the postseason. Obviously, a lot of people that are American League fans wanted to see those Rays knocked out early. They are a powerhouse of a team, but the Jays' inexperience really just hurt them, and that was obvious. Their offense couldn't hit, and Hyunjin Ryu, who was such a big force, he didn't get the job done. He couldn't go out there and give the Jays the game that they needed him to do. Gave up, I believe, it was between 5 and 7 runs. I don't remember the exact number, but that's too much from their ace. It's just wasn't the way this series needed to go for the Blue Jays, but it is good experience for them for the future. The things that worked well, the Rays pitching staff did exactly what we expected them to do. They are a pitching heavy team, and they pitched phenomenally. But their offense was better than they have been. This is a offense that manages to get maybe 4 or 5 runs a game and lets the pitching just kind of help them to that win. They scored 8 runs in game 2, which was a really good boost for them. And the MVP for this series, I have to go with Randy Arozarena. A phenomenal series for him, a guy that most people probably don't even know, and he's out here winning the MVP. He did a phenomenal job and most certainly was a key part to that Rays win.
So I'm going to go the Rays first and foremost. Great pitching. You know, I'm a big fan of pitching when it comes to strikeouts and all that kind of stuff. If you guys would just understand how far just pitching goes in the postseason and the momentum goes on your side, it's really beneficial. So great pitching staff, great pitching by the pitchers of the Rays. And also, I think the Jays were just too young. They're just too young. It was a great experience for them. Obviously, they did everything they could to get to the playoffs, with such a young squad. They were just too young at the plate. I know Vlad Guerrero, Bobichette, Biggio, Captain Kirk, they're just too young. But it leaves in a good spot for their future. So I'll give them that they know that what it's like to play postseason baseball against a really, really good team. So you got to give some credit to them because they went out and played as much as they could. They gave it their best. Their pitching was horrible, but they're at the plate. They did their best. They tried their best, in my opinion. But I go with the MVP. Blake Snell, he pitched a gem in game 1. I was enjoying that a lot. I'm like, man, this guy's throwing a no-hitter. He had 9 strikeouts, 0 earned runs, and only 1 hit. Only 1 hit. And like I said, pitching well in the postseason takes you a long way if you stay locked in. So I'm going to go with Blake Snell as my MVP, and I'm excited for this Rays and Yankees matchup coming up.
Yeah, my key takeaway from this series is probably just not yet the Blue Jays. They're just such a good young team, and it was really encouraging to see them make the playoffs this year. I think we're in store for a lot of good Blue Jay baseball for the next couple of years, but just not yet. And I think the Rays that was just a really tough matchup for them to even start with. Obviously, the 1 versus the 8 seed. My MVP, Blake Snell, like Marco had also, I think had really had a comeback game this game. You could argue this season wasn't his best season aside from his Cy Young caliber seasons, but he made a statement game 1, throwing a no-hitter into the 6th inning, not giving up a run, striking out 8, just an overall dominant performance by Blake Snell. And the Rays they hurt you in a lot of ways. They can beat you with the long ball. They can beat you with the small ball. They just play winning baseball, and I'm really excited to see them play the Yankees in the series because it'll be a true test to see what kind of baseball wins, small ball versus long ball. I'm excited for that series. Overall, great series from the Rays. And my key takeaway from the series is really that the Blue Jays just aren't there yet, but in a few years, they can really be contenders to the AL East crown along with the Yankees. And I'm excited for the Blue Jays' young core, but overall, Rays great series, and can't wait for them to play the Yankees.
I agree.
Honestly, my MVP is that starting pitching staff from the Rays. The starting pitching from Snell and Glasgow, they went 11 2/3 innings, struck out 17. They really commanded this series. And, of course, it's easy for Tyler Glasnow when he gets 7 runs in the first 2 innings and 6 in the second inning. So they had the recipe for success because, like Nikash said, this is a team that can do it all and win in any facet with their pitching, by playing small ball, by going with the long ball. They do it all. This is why the Rays are one of the most dangerous teams and the best team in the American League. This series against the Yankees is going to be insane because it's going to be which Rays team is going to show up. Are you going to see them rely on the small ball? Or are you going to see them try to match the Yankees' long ball mentality? But like I said, MVP is that starting pitching because they have the best starting pitching. You've seen that. You saw their dynamic duo just shut down a very young and very promising Blue Jays team. That's a great offense. So I was extremely impressed with the Rays and how they just commanded the series from the start.
And that also brings us to a series that, you kind of flip the coin. You go from a commanding series to a really tight series that started off one way and ended another. The White Sox and Athletics series was one to watch right away from the beginning. I was one of the people that predicted the White Sox to win this series. They didn't live up to that. They won game 1. They had a power outing. They beat up Sean Manaea, but then they couldn't get it done afterwards. The biggest problem that I saw was that they couldn't hit in the clutch. They could not get the clutch hit. Jose Abreu came up to the plate 2 times with the bases loaded in that series and grounded out both of them to end the inning. You can't have that happen. The White Sox had their chance. They had it. They missed it. Their starting pitching depth hurt them game 3. They have one of the best bullpens in baseball, but you can't throw a bullpen out there for 9 innings without a starting pitcher unless you're the Tampa Bay Rays. But even at that, you can't expect to get a gem of a game. So it didn't work for them. Their lack of pitching really just hurt them. The Athletics, on the other hand, their offense woke up right at the perfect time. And I think that was the key for them, that their offense needed to wake up, and it did. They couldn't hit in game 1. They picked it up at the end. And my MVP is going to be Jake Diekman here, the reliever for the left-hander. I mean, he pitched in all 3 games. He never failed to help the Athletics. What am I saying? But he was the one who got out of that jam when he came in to pitched with the bases loaded and got out of it. It was a recipe for success, and the Athletics, if they can keep this roll going, they should have a good chance of making it far in the playoffs.
So what series are we talking about? I got a little bit confused.
The Athletics White Sox.
Okay, yeah. I was a little bit confused on what we're thinking about. So this was a hard one to analyze, in my opinion, because it was just – there weren't many people that stood out a lot in the Athletics lineup, in my opinion. But the thing that I think is what made the Athletics win is the silence of the White Sox's bats in games 2 and 3. Why? If you look at games 2 and 3, the White Sox left 22. You're that right. 22 men left on base in those 2 games. They couldn't get the runners home to get a lead or to secure a lead. They couldn't make that happen. You don't leave 22 men on base in 2 games. That's 11 per game. Obviously, one had 10, one had 12, but that's a lot of runners on base that are left, and you just couldn't get them home. So I think the Athletics took advantage of that situation, and they just played consistent baseball. They didn't have a really, really big inning, but it was like little by little, let's chip our way to get the lead, stay in the lead, and something like that. So it was just a good job of the Athletics showing up at the right time. But for me, the MVP for this series is Chad Pinder. Without doubt, it's got to be Chad Pinder for me, because what he did, he came as a pinch hitter. He had 2 hits in 3 at-bats, 2 RBIs, and that was just phenomenal for them. Like, when they needed him after Lamb had to come out, he showed up, and he made sure that Game 3 was the game that they needed to move on to the next round. So I'll just go with that. The White Sox, they just couldn't get their runners home, leaving 22 men on base in 2 games. Unacceptable.
Yeah, like Marco said, the White Sox just weren't clutch. When you have your MVP and Jose Abreu leaving the bases loaded twice in 1 game, that's recipe for failure, in my opinion. They got 3 for 14 in game 3 with runners in scoring position. You just can't have that. That will not win you ball games. The Athletics were a more clutch team, and it showed. The Athletics, to me, went into this series thinking a lot of people doubted them, considering that with the Matt Chapman injury, they considered that to be, okay, the White Sox should win this series. But the Athletics took that to heart, I feel like, and really just played a better series than the White Sox. The White Sox did look really good throughout this entire season, but ever since that, they went 2-8 in their last 10 games during the regular season, and they lost the division. That really hurt them, and then obviously they couldn't get it done this series. I don't know what happened. They got into a really big slump, and they didn't really have a big injury, but it just really showed that they weren't ready for prime time. The Athletics, and my MVP for this series is going to be the Athletics pitching staff in Game 3. They also threw out 9 pitchers, not 9 pitchers, but I think 7 or 8 pitchers. Really got the job done. And for me, this Athletics team will be a fun team to watch, especially against the Astros and the ALDS.
Wow, the Athletics really came back and fought hard. And the reason they got the win in this series is because they're a resilient team. They're gritty. They don't let anything get to them. And I'm going to say that their MVP for this series, it's got to be Chris Bassett. He's been an underrated pitcher all year, and a lot of people don't know his name, but wow, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. He's been huge for them all year long. He's a guy that isn't going to get the national attention for Cy Young, but he should at least get a few votes. This season, 5-2, 2.29 ERA, and 63 innings. He's been a key piece of that rotation all year, especially with the inconsistencies from Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea. He's been huge for them. And he went out and he led that team to a must-win victory. If they were going to lose, then they were going to lose in 3. He was not going to let them get swept. There was no chance of that happening. And then the offense did a great job. It was Ramon Laureano in Game 2, then Marcus Semien in Game 3. Key performances from key players of that team really came up and got them back and got them the series win.
That's all you could say. Just the key plays. That brings us into a series that was
bullpen is better than the White Sox.
Okay. What was that?
Game 3. Game 3.
Look at
Pirates only won an inning in 2/3.
Yes,
The
right.
bullpen was electric.
It was good. I agree. But either way, we have to move on. We're taking Nick's saying, I give him full props for this. We're running around the bases very quickly here, but we only have 11 more minutes to go. The Astros and the Twins was another really good series here. And to sum it up, just basically, the Twins couldn't hit. They let the curse get to them, and that was their downfall. The Astros pitching was phenomenal, and Carlos Correa's got to be my MVP. A great series all around for everybody on the Astros. They've got a point to prove, and they are doing a very good job.
No, I agree. Nothing much to say about that, Michael. I'll just say that the Astros took advantage of a very out of form Twins that simply can't get a win in the playoffs, and it's sad to see. So, like you said, Correa had a great series. So I'm going to go with him as my MVP.
Twins are cursed. What can you say? I don't have a problem with it. They're a division rival. I could care less how they do in the playoffs, but they're just cursed franchise. You know, not much to say to it. I hate that the Astros won this series. It just really would have been really nice to see have a first round exit after the whole cheating scandal. But my MVP is gonna be Framber Valdez. Game 1, went out there through five innings, gave up 2 hits, two walks, 5 strikeouts. And the Astros just had timely hitting, and the Twins didn't. And there's not much more you can say about that.
Yeah, Nick, you're right. Framber Valdez, and also it was also, you got to think about Christian Javier as well. Went 3 innings, 2 strikeouts. Big performances from key guys in their bullpen really helped them get the win. But the Twins are just cursed, man. They've lost 18 straight playoff games. Like, what else can they do? It's just once they get to the playoffs, they choke. They were clutch at the end of the season, getting back their division and winning the division title, but then choke in the playoffs again. I don't know what it is. Their pitching wasn't even bad. They gave up 7 runs in the series. It was the offense that only got 2 runs that really hurt them. The offense that had been so electric and so powerful hitting home runs and manufacturing runs was basically non-existent.
Yeah, the Twins just fell flat on their face. It was hard to watch. The Yankees and Indians, best series of the AL side, and it was just fun to watch. There was nothing else to say other than fun to watch series. The Indians put up a fight, but their offense couldn't keep up with the Yankees' offense. The pitching staff was too thin, and the Yankees' pitching staff did struggle, but didn't struggle enough. Both offenses did very well. The Yankees' offense just was a little bit hotter, and I got to give it to Gleyber Torres for that MVP. A really good series for him, and overall, very well-deserved MVP.
Yeah, I'll go quickly on this one. Just lack of pitching on both sides of the teams. The Yankees did okay. Well, besides Garrett Cole, he did a phenomenal job.
Yes.
But game 2, obviously, Masahiro Tanaka. Well, I guess the weather had to do something with it because it was just horrible, But the Indians, they kind of disappointed, after having the best pitcher in baseball this season. It was just sad to see, and also Zach Plesac, who had an iffy game as well. So just a dangerous lineup. Yankees, you got to give it to them. So one thing is that I'm tied for 3 in my MVP. I got Garrett Cole, Gleyber Torres, and Gio Urshela because all those 3 players came in clutch for the Yankees. So I can't really say an MVP. If you guys want me to choose one, I'll just go with Gio Urshela. He went 3 for 9, 3 runs, and 5 RBIs. So I think that speaks volume. Yes, Gleyber Torres went 5 for 7, but those 5 runs batted in by Urshela were just phenomenal. They were important, they were clutch, and they were very, very important for the Yankees.
I agree, Ryan.
Easy for me. It's gotta be Garrett Cole. Who else can you really think of in this situation? Garrett Cole out-dueled Shane Bieber, which you would never think would happen. Game 1 goes 7 innings with 13 strikeouts. I told y'all going into this series, Garrett Cole, he's a beast in the playoffs, and he's away from Yankee Stadium. Here he is, and guess what? Look who it is. Garrett Cole is back. He's going to lead that rotation, and the Yankees are set to have a very, very competitive series against the Rays, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, like you all said, Indians really show that they can go toe-to-toe with the Yankees, but in the end, the Yankees' depth is just too much for the Indians. My MVP is actually going to go to Chapman. Had a very underrated game in Game 2, went 2 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. I know how hard it is for a reliever to go more than 1 inning, and with Chapman's, let's say his resume in the playoffs speaks for itself, but he really showed out, changed the narrative, kind of like what Kershaw did. Great series all around. Game 2 was one of the better games of this playoffs. 10-9 win for the Yankees, and Gio Urshela also showed up huge in this series. That timely grand slam, just great hitting for the Yankees, and excited for them to play the Rays in the ALDS.
Yeah, going to be a divisional rivalry in every single series, so that gives us predictions.
Little note.
What?
I find it awesome that Gio Urshela hit a grand slam against his former team.
Yes, that's
awesome. Insane. I think that was awesome.
That was dope. The predictions we're gonna do, just give your winner and how many games if you have them. If you don't have how many games, just say your winner. I'm gonna start it off. Also, just to note, all of these series are divisional. They are literally the division series because that is every East plays East and going on. The Padres-Dodgers in Arlington. I've got the Dodgers in 4, but I have a caveat. If Clevenger and Lamet are available, Dodgers in 5. Going to be a good series. Definitely going to be fun to watch.
Oh, man, you're really putting me on the spot. You have more confidence in the Dodgers than – I'm not saying I don't have confidence in them.
It's going to be a good series.
It's going to be a good series. I think I'm going for Dodgers in 5, but I think worst-case scenario, Dodgers in 6. Because you just never know how.
It's a division series.
All right, divisional series is only 5 games.
Yeah, I don't know. Padres are just swinging the bats at the right time. They're swinging at the right time. They come out with a lot of confidence. I don't know if you saw a video of the Padres fans outside of the stadium cheering them on to leave. So they have some really good momentum on their side. So I'm going for Dodgers in 5, but you never know. Dodgers in 6. You just never know. It's the playoffs, baby.
I'm going to go Dodgers in 4. Their offense isn't really where I wanted them to be against the Brewers, but I think this series is just going to unleash it. They're going to show you why they have 2 MVPs in that lineup. And I'm excited for Kershaw to pitch again because I really do think he'll pitch well against the Padres. If he pitches horribly, we'll say I jinxed him. But let's ride the Kershaw way for now.
This is a tough series only because of games, but I'm not going to pick games. I'm not a big fan of that. Plus, it's too difficult to pick. I'm really going to go with the Dodgers, though. They're going to win this series. It's not hard to realize because this team is that good. They've got the best lineup in baseball. They've got a terrific starting rotation with a dynamic duo of Buehler and Kershaw. They have a terrific bullpen. This team is set to win the World Series, and I'm going to stand by it. They're going to win this series.
Yeah, I agree. And for these last three, because we really got to move, we're just going to say the winner of the series. I'm going, well, and if you want to say how many games, you can go on ahead. For the Marlins-Braves series, I'm going for the Braves in 4.
I got Braves in 4. Yeah.
Braves in 4.
I agree with you guys. Braves in 4.
Awesome. We all agree. Wow. That brings us over to the AL side. And on that AL side, Astros Athletics. I'm going bold. Astros in 5.
Wow. I'm going Athletics in 6.
Divisional series.
It's only 5
5
games,
series.
Marco. You're forgetting that it's only a 5-game series.
My
You
bad.
said
I'm
that for
so sorry. I'm so sorry. My math was so wrong. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. We forgot. We went from 3 games to 5.
Yeah.
We're not used to it.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I think I have to do it all over again. I have to do it all over again.
It's all right. We'll forgive you.
Yeah. Dodgers in 3. Braves in 3.
Okay.
And then I got the Athletics in 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I just hate the Astros too much to even think that they're going to win this series. I go A's in 4.
A's in 4, easy. This is where they're just going to say, you know what? You have screwed us. That's it. We're putting a nail in your coffin. You're done.
Well, it can very well happen. Then the Yankees and the Rays. That'll be fun to watch as well, but Yankees in 5.
I'm going to go in that one with Yankees in 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yankees in 4. I'll take that. Yep.
This is the toughest series. Gosh.
Let's go. We got to end the show in 30
Yankees
seconds.
in 5.
Uh,
Yankees in 5.
I'm gonna go Yankees in 5.
All right.
I think that lineup's gonna do it. So hold on real quick. Hold on.
We've
Everyone
got 30
picked the
seconds,
Yankees, right?
Brian.
Everyone picked the Yankees, right?
Uh-huh. There we go. That's a good way to end the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching on Blaze. If you came to listen to us, thank you for another amazing Sunday. I can't wait for next week. It's going to be a
Now
phenomenal
let's
week.
watch some Sunday football.
Oh, Marco.
I said the wrong number. I feel retarded.
We'll get him. It's okay. It's fine. We'll bounce back next week, Marco. It's fine. We'll get you next time.